both locally and nationally, politically, that we are going to get to today. There's a lot going on and a lot to cover, and we are going to get to all of it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the AM/FM dial. Of course, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, X, whatever they're calling it these days. And we have a lot to get to. As I mentioned, I also want to thank everybody joining us on the Occupy Democrats Network. So from a local and a national level, this is an important topic. The man who is the Nevada GOP chair is the guy who said that the 2020 election was rigged. And now, in real time, this is the guy who's rigging the election for Donald Trump as we speak in Nevada. Joining us to talk about this story in just a few minutes is a guy who I have a lot of respect for from the Nevada Independent, well-respected. Jon Ralston will be joining us here in just a few minutes to talk about that. It is mesmerizing. And all the current GOP leadership in Nevada today, they're blaming past leadership for their own failures. We'll get to that coming up with Jon Ralston coming up here in just a few minutes. There is a possibility that we could have the 45th president of the United States joining us at the bottom of the hour. I don't know that for sure yet. It hasn't been confirmed. We're working on it, and I'll let you know here coming up at the bottom of the hour. I want to start with this, and I didn't really get a chance to talk much about this yesterday, but I will talk about it a little bit today, and that is the Epstein list that was released. I can tell you right now there are no bombshells here. Really, for the most part. I mean, the Alan Dershowitz and the David Copperfield stuff is not surprising, and it's bizarre, and I'm not surprised at all. But we knew that Bill Clinton was friends with Epstein for over 20 years ago. We knew that. We also knew that Donald Trump was friends with Epstein. So there's really no bombshells in here. There's a statement that I guess Epstein made that Bill Clinton likes him young. But Bill Clinton is not under investigation for any wrongdoing. And by the way, neither is Donald Trump. They both had some sort of friendship and some sort of relationship with Epstein. So the idea that you hear from the far right, because if a MAGA Republican disagrees with you on anything, they'll call you a pedophile. It's really strange. Even I get that stuff. I went on social media the other day because you had a MAGA supporter who was citing Alex Jones. Now, obviously, anybody who cites Alex Jones and gets their news from Alex Jones is a moron. And that's what I called her. And then she said, I'm a pedophile. It's some weird fascination with the far right that they want to call everybody pedophiles that disagree with them when they can't spell the word fact. It's really weird. And this Epstein thing, it seems like so many on the far right are obsessed with it. Listen, we know that Epstein was a horrific human being, and those that were close to him, that associated with him, horrific human beings that enabled, young girls to be sexually abused. It's an awful story. It's terrible. But it seems like from the Marjorie Taylor Greene playbook of just throwing out the word pedophile when you don't even know what the word means. I don't know whether Donald Trump or Bill Clinton or both of them committed any crimes. What we do know when it comes to Epstein is they're not under investigation. We know that Epstein is dead. I'm not going to get into the conspiracies of whether he committed suicide or somebody murdered him. He's dead. This is horrible. It can't happen again. It's a terrible story. But there was nothing that came out in this list that blew me away or was a huge bombshell or was a surprise. We've seen the pictures with Donald Trump and Epstein. We've seen the pictures with Bill Clinton and Epstein. Did I know that Alan Dershowitz was accused of possibly having sex with an underage girl? No. Am I surprised to hear that? No. Am I surprised to hear that David Copperfield couldn't magically make his name disappear from this list? No, I'm not, if you look at David Copperfield's past. But nobody is under criminal investigation here. And when you have somebody like Aaron Rodgers, who I think is a despicable person, who lied about getting vaccinated, if you recall, saying that Jimmy Kimmel might be on that list or making that so-called claim, there's nothing funny about that. You can make fun of people or do what Jimmy Kimmel does on a nightly basis. He'll make fun of Donald Trump's hair. He'll make fun of something stupid that Marjorie Taylor Greene said. But there is a fine line between making a joke like that doesn't really hurt anybody, and then somebody like Aaron Rodgers claiming that Jimmy Kimmel is somehow on this Epstein Island list. There is a certain line that you should never cross. And there's nothing funny about making a joke and claiming that somebody has molested kids or has been having sexual relations with underage kids. There's nothing funny about that. So I hope that Jimmy Kimmel sues the hell out of Aaron Rodgers. I hope that happens. There's nothing funny about making jokes about Epstein Island. Now, if you want to make jokes about Epstein himself at his expense, fine. But saying that people were on Epstein Island or they were on the list when there's no evidence of that at all is over the line. And I think Jimmy Kimmel has a right to be angry, and Jimmy Kimmel has a right to file a defamation suit. Quite frankly, it's wrong and it's terrible. And these people on the far right that'll just throw that word pedophile out there as if somehow you have no evidence, but you can say somebody's sexually attracted to children and is possibly sexually assaulting children. There's nothing funny about that. Aaron Rodgers is an a-hole, and Jimmy Kimmel is 100% correct. There's nothing funny about making jokes about like that. And by the way, another thing, people on the far right that are the MAGA Trump supporters saying that Donald Trump has been exonerated. Donald Trump doesn't have any criminal charges as far as anything to do with Epstein, and neither does Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton has said himself that he hasn't done anything wrong. He's not under investigation. No criminal charges. Same thing with Donald Trump when it comes to this. Now, I understand Donald Trump is facing 91 felony counts, but it has absolutely nothing to do with Epstein. Do I know for sure that either Trump or Clinton didn't do anything illegal? No, I don't know that. But here's what I do know. And here's what we all know. Bill Clinton was associated with Epstein, and they were friends at one time. Same thing with Donald Trump. So take it for what you will. There were no bombshells in this report. There was nothing in this report that said, wow, am I shocked to hear that? Am I shocked that Alan Dershowitz possibly might have had sex with an underage child? Am I shocked to hear that? No. Would it be nice if there was some accountability? Yes. You know, maybe we'll never know the truth. Maybe we'll never know. But I am telling you right now that there's nothing in here to me that is quote unquote some sort of bombshell, at least in my estimation. That's my personal opinion. So again, we'll have to wait and see how everything plays out between Jimmy Kimmel and Aaron Rodgers. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. I can tell you right now, making jokes about people possibly being associated with Epstein and possibly molesting kids, there's nothing funny about that. I don't think that's funny at all. So we'll have to wait and see on that front how this thing plays out. But as I try to explain to people, there is a fine line between, you know, making fun of Donald Trump's hair and accusing somebody of sexual assault. So as I mentioned to start this segment, Mike McDonald, the current Nevada GOP chair, how he still is beyond me. The current GOP chair is facing charges on this allegedly this fake electorate scheme. And now there's more drama locally here in Nevada, where the Nevada Republican National Committee woman is taking no responsibility with the current administration, for what took place back in 2012, blaming Amy Tarkanian and so many others. And the Nevada Independent is a great publication. I've read the articles they've written about this and covering McDonald and Chata, who's a lunatic, by the way. And the person joining us right now is somebody that I certainly have a lot of respect for. He is the CEO of the Nevada Independent. Of course, I'm talking about Jon Ralston, who joins us right now. Jon, always a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. How are you?
Thanks for having me back, Brian. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, Jon. Boy, there's a lot to get to locally, isn't there, with you? And it's been a little while since we spoke. Before we get to Sigal Chata's comments, before we get to that, let's start with Mike McDonald, shall we? Because I haven't talked to you since these 6 individuals were indicted for this alleged fake electorate scheme. What was your first reaction when you heard that Jesse Law, Mike McDonald, and 4 others were indicted?
Well, I was a little bit surprised, and the Attorney General, who people should know is a Democrat, Aaron Ford, took his time and only got this indictment done just shortly before the statute of limitations ran out. He had indicated previously that he wasn't going to pursue this case, that there were no laws that directly could be used to charge them, and he even was behind a proposed law that didn't go anywhere in the legislature because the governor vetoed it to directly make being a fake elector a crime. So I was a little surprised that they were actually indicted. And Brian, I'm not a lawyer. As I like to say, I just used to play one on TV for about 15 years or so. But I mean, are they guilty of fraud? Are they guilty, which essentially is what they're being charged with? They certainly perpetuated a fraud that day in 2020 by pretending to be real electors. Remember, other states had similar kinds of ceremonies, but they said they were provisional electors should the election be reversed. That's not what happened in Nevada. They claim to be the real electors. People can see the video. Michael McDonald starts this by saying this is a meeting of the Electoral College in Nevada, not conditional on anything. Biden had won the state. All of the challenges had fallen apart. So that's a long way of saying, sorry to be so long-winded in my return here, Brian, but the bottom line is I was a little surprised that they were indicted. I don't know if the case is going anywhere or not, but I'm glad it's getting more attention because people should not forget that this happened, what happened in 2020.
Yeah, and they've all pled not guilty. And I've heard through the grapevine for some of those that were indicted, at least some of their friends off the record, but have told me that they said that their excuse for doing this was the Republican Party told them to do it. And I say to myself, it's like the excuse of if you rob a bank and then you tell the police officers, oh, you know what? That person told me to do it. Is that their defense?
Yeah, the Trump campaign clearly was involved in this. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ford is also looking into whether anybody with the Trump campaign has culpability in this. They clearly were taking their marching orders from them. Michael McDonald is not capable of thinking of this himself. So clearly he was being directed to do it, whether they're text messages or emails or any other kinds of communications that prove that other people could potentially be indicted for this. But of course, just saying taking orders is a long, that's a long held kind of way to try to get out of any culpability. So again, I don't know what their legal culpability is. I know what their moral culpability is in this. And as I said, it even if they don't get convicted, the fact is that more attention that is brought to the effort to undermine democracy in 2020 by them and others, better.
And it's my understanding, John, that Mike McDonald has also pled the fifth a number of times with the basic of questions. Were you involved in this fake electorate scheme? Do you know who was involved? And he pleaded the fifth time and time again. And it was his own hero, Donald Trump, who once said, if you plead the fifth, you're probably guilty. So I guess we'll let the people decide on that. But isn't it ironic, John, and you guys have been covering this story as well, and you spoke about it yesterday on social media, that Mike McDonald, the guy who said that the 2020 election was rigged, which it wasn't, you and I both know that, is now the guy who's trying to rig the election in Nevada for Donald Trump. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, it's if these people have no shame or sense of embarrassment, or they wouldn't be doing the things that they're doing, right? So the bottom line is that McDonald and his gang and who are embedded essentially in the Trump campaign this time as well have for some reason a few months ago or whenever it was decided that maybe Trump wouldn't do as well if too many Republicans vote because the ones who see him as a threat would vote against him. So they decided to do a party-run caucus where the turnout's going to be low and where they essentially can fix the outcome. And so McDonald, when Trump was here in the last week or two, came to the rally and told people to go caucus for Donald Trump. Let me be clear here. This is the guy who's overseeing the caucus that also involves other candidates, DeSantis, Christie, etc. And he is saying to people, go caucus for Donald Trump. And he's running the election. I mean, common sense tells you what's going on here.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's mesmerizing to me. And I know you've been talking about this on social media today, and that is Nevada's Republican National Committee woman, Sigal Chattah, who I will just say on the record, I think she's a nutcase. She's crazy. And, her lies and conspiracy theories, I would consider her very similar to Alex Jones in some ways. She loses the election handily. Amy Tarkanian, the former GOP chair, who we are mutual friends with. I have a lot of respect for Amy. She does this show all the time. And, Amy Tarkanian did not support Sigal Chattah. And now Sigal Chattah decides to go on social media blaming Amy Tarkanian for the problems that the Nevada GOP has, right? What do you make of this?
Well, first of all, she was talking about 2012 because I pointed out that these are the same people who couldn't count a very small number of votes in 2012, and she tried to blame the whole thing on Amy Tarkanian, but she wasn't even there. She doesn't know anything about it. I wrote extensively about what happened back there, and I did enjoy putting out a picture of the guy counting the ballots in 2012 with none other than Michael McDonald. She doesn't know how the process works. She doesn't. Her social media feed is unhinged.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really is. And believe me, I'm not the only one who thinks so. And so she is, it's a nightmare for the governor who she attacks. The governor's a Republican and she attacks him all the time. Yeah. It's just a nightmare for establishment Republicans to have her on the national committee.
Mm-hmm. And Jon, you've been doing this for a long time, and this goes to the bigger picture, even the national picture. And that is there are still such a large percentage of Republicans that still believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election in a landslide. What do you make of the fact that on a debate stage that almost all the candidates that are Republicans running for president were asked, if Donald Trump is actually convicted of a felony, if he's a convicted felon, will you still support him? And then you got Ron DeSantis looking to see what everybody else does. And the only person, I think Hutchinson and Chris Christie were the ones at the time that did not raise their hand. Everybody else raises their hand. What do you make of that?
Well, politicians acting cowardly in public is nothing new. And politicians saying things in public that is dissonant with what they say in private is nothing new. They're afraid. Brian, they're afraid of the base of the Republican Party, which still loves Donald Trump and believes that the election was stolen. The percentage, 2020 election, the percentage of Republicans who think the election was stolen is absolutely frightening. And I've been thinking about this a lot because, and you know this too from the other times I've been on here and what I've written. It is very disturbing to me. And for the future of this country and for the future of democracy, because once you get a majority of people believing that the election is not valid, it's over, right? Then you don't really have a democracy anymore. And so that is what Trump and his enablers are trying to do, have tried to do. I try to have sympathy for the regular folks who are out there with their families just trying to make ends meet and don't pay as close attention to this stuff as you and I and others do. It's the leaders. It's the leaders of someone on the Republican National Committee, Republican elected officials, Republican operatives who enable this, who tell people the election was stolen, who tell people the election can't be trusted. And you think about what's going on in Nevada. You've had tremendous turnover in Nevada of election officials who have been harassed and have decided to leave. And it's very, very scary. And by the way, I don't say this with any kind of relish as a journalist. It's going to get much, much worse as this year goes on. And it's going to be very difficult to cover. And I think about it every day and talk to my editors over at the Indy about it every day, how we're going to cover this kind of stuff. Because this is a story that, unlike most stories, doesn't have two sides, Brian. It has one side.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you look at Vivek Ramaswamy, who's done this show before, and he continues to say that January 6th was, quote, an inside job with no evidence to back that up. And yet people cheer him on. And this is a guy that is, in my personal opinion, he just wants to work inside the Donald Trump administration. And that's why he's saying things that the MAGA base seems to love. What do you make of one of the most popular in the Republican Party? I mean, you have a few others out there that says that January 6th was an inside job.
Yeah, well, that's outrageous too. And Trump has tried to change the entire narrative now of January 6th. It has nothing to do with facts, but now he is calling the people accused of crimes and convicted of crimes on January 6th, which, by the way, are on videotape. Most of them, he's calling them hostages, not criminals. And so they want to erase January 6th. They want to say enough is enough. Let's move forward. And I get that a lot of people probably do want to move beyond it. But what that symbolizes, and that is a direct through line from what Michael McDonald and Adam Laxalt and all the rest of them did in December of 2020 to now 3 years later plus, people not having faith in the elections, people saying crazy stuff like it was an inside job and all the rest of it. January 6th truthers are awful, just as 9/11 truthers are awful. And so it's terrible for the fabric of democracy in this country. But what's amazing is they just don't care. They don't care, Brian. That's the most amazing thing about it.
All they care about is their guy, Donald Trump, getting back into office. That seems to be all they care about. I'm curious. It's probably been a while since you spoke to Mike McDonald. If you were in a room with him alone in private, I'm curious, would you say anything to him? And what would you say if you had the opportunity?
Well, I wouldn't want to talk to him really, but if I did, I would just look, because I've known him for a long, long time.
Right.
I've known him since he first ran for the city council, and he has a cavalcade of ethical transgressions that I don't even have time for to list here on your program. But I mean, the natural question for McDonald is: have you no shame whatsoever? How do you look at yourself in the mirror? It's always a question about people like him, Brian. Does he know that what he's saying is not true, or does he actually believe it because he's just trying to perpetuate his place in the world? And imagine that that's what you're trying to do, to remain state chairman of the Republican Party. Imagine that. Anyone with any self-respect would have resigned a long time ago based on the disaster that his tenure has been for the Republicans in this state. You can just do the math in terms of what the state looks like. He wants to take partial credit, perhaps, for Lombardo being the governor. He had nothing to do with it. Lombardo won the governorship despite the Republican Party here, and he barely won, as you know, by about 15,000 votes. So I have no desire to talk to McDonald. He's incapable of telling the truth, whether on stuff like this, whether it's an actual pathology or not. And he's just incapable of doing it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Jon, you know how much I respect what you guys do over there at the Nevada Independent. Before I let you go, how can people get involved? How can people donate? Because we need more people like you out there reporting and being honest and being fair. How do people out there get involved, find more about what you guys do, and donate?
I appreciate you're asking the question, and I'm really proud of this team. And these reporters have all bought into presenting the news fair and transparently. We list all of our donors. Go to the NevadaIndependent.com. I appreciate all the donations we get, but don't donate until you look at the site. And if you see that what we're doing is what I say it is, just give us a little bit. Give us $5 a month, $10 a month, and just to show that what we do is important, Brian. And the journalists get a bad rap, and some of it's deserved, I suppose. But what we do is very, very important, and I still believe in it.
Non-biased, fair. You have a lot of good journalists over there, and of course, you're one of them. Jon Ralston, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time, as always. We'll talk to you soon, my friend, and have a good weekend, and appreciate your time.
You too. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Jon. Appreciate you. That's Jon Ralston, everybody, from the Nevada Independent, and I really mean what I say about him. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. Please check out the Nevada Independent. That's what they are. It's an independent organization. They're fair. Listen, they'll go after Democrats just as much as Republicans if there's wrongdoing. It's just this segment, there's a lot of wrongdoing on the far right in these MAGA Republicans. Let me say this again, and I don't say this lightly. The man who is the Nevada GOP chair, as I like to call him, Ronald McDonald, or his real name, Mike McDonald, who said the 2020 election was rigged. That's dumb enough. Is now attempting to rig the election in Nevada for Donald Trump. People need to stand up. They need to speak out and call this guy out. Because in my personal opinion, he is a criminal. He is a liar. And as Jon Ralston just said, he literally has no shame. And, it's frustrating because John's right. There's a lot of people out there that believe the 2020 election was stolen. Why? Because they believe everything that a guy like a Donald Trump says, or even in Nevada, somebody like a Ronald McDonald says. The 2020 election was not stolen. There is no evidence of widespread voter fraud. And if you still talk to people that believe that, then you need to get them a little bit more tinfoil for their hat. Because I can't have conversations with these people anymore. It's virtually impossible. They believe what they believe. They believe they're flat earthers. I really don't know what else to say. Oh, we just got some information. Okay, wow, this is crazy stuff, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to believe this. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little shocked as well. Coming up here in about 120 seconds, we're going to be speaking to the 45th president of the United States. That's right. Donald Trump is going to be joining us. He's taking a few minutes of his time to join us. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be getting about 10 minutes with the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. Wow, this is, I was not expecting this to happen, but it is going to happen because we've just heard his handlers have just told us that he's going to be calling in. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States, will be joining us. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Business. That email All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. Also, my thanks to Jon Ralston from the Nevada Independent. He really is great. I'll be honest with you, though, Jon Ralston is not the biggest fan of the guy we have with us on the line right now. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you, and we're very lucky to have him on the line. He's a very busy man. The former president of the United States, 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, joining us right now on the line. Mr. President, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Brian, or afternoon, or whatever time it is in Las Vegas. You know, I love that city, and I'm sure you're very honored to have me on today.
I am, Mr. President, and I'm always amazed at, you taking the time to join me on the show, because you do know I'm not the biggest fan of yours, and for a lot of different reasons, but yet you still come on, so I do respect you for doing that, Mr. President.
Oh, absolutely, and it's people like you that I need to flip. I need to flip people like you and show you how fantastic I am and what a great job I can do and what a horrible, horrible job Joe Biden is doing. He's walking around the White House, stumbling around and probably seeing ghosts and things like that. He actually is a ghost. He's so old.
Well, that's not very nice, but you did mention the word flipping. I mean, there are a lot of people you have flipped, Mark Meadows, and others that have already flipped. What would you say about them? Because they actually have literally flipped in the courtroom.
Terrible, terrible people. You know, it's so sad. You trust somebody like your wife, and they're not there for you. It's really, really incredibly sad. Mark Meadows, the list is kind of long at this point. Bill Barr. All of these people, you trust them. They're like, sir, I'll do a fantastic job for you, sir. And then they come in and they do a horrible, horrible job. And that's why you have to fire people, because they're so terrible.
Well, I mean, Mark Meadows was by your side for ups and downs. That's for sure. I mean, my question to you, though, you mentioned your wife, Melania Trump. Why have we not seen her with you lately? Where has Melania Trump been?
Well, I have to tell you, Brian, that's my question. Where is she? Where is she? You know what I mean? The prenup is still in full effect, so I don't know what she's doing.
Interesting.
You know, but on the upside, I don't know. Did you see the photos from New Year's Eve?
I did.
Wait, have you seen Alina Habba? Have you seen Alina Habba? I call her Habba Dabba Doo. Habba Dabba Doo. She is something else. Let me tell you something. And she's far younger than Melania. I always say 44 and out the door, but I don't think I'd ever say that to Alina.
But Mr. President, I mean, she's made some very key mistakes in your trial, not having a jury. And I understand you find her to be very attractive. I get that. But what do you find more important, her legal ability or legal skills, or what she looks like? I guess that's the important question.
What she looks like, hands down what she looks like.
Okay, well, I
you know what I mean? You can't always, you can have beautiful and smart, but it's not like super beautiful. But when you get super beautiful, then they're going to make mistakes. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, super beautiful women just aren't as smart as they need to be. Like the women, I mean, nobody on the Supreme Court is going to be a supermodel, if you know what I'm saying.
Hey, listen, Mr. President, I appreciate your honesty there. I really, really do. Why have you not helped out somebody like a Rudy Giuliani who just filed for bankruptcy? I mean, this is a guy who's been very, very loyal to you, Mr. President.
Well, just like Mark Meadows isn't there for me, I'm not going to be there for Rudy. You know what I mean? Yeah. These people learn that they have to learn this. If they want to dish it out, they have to be able to take it.
Fair enough. By the way, what did you do New Year's Eve? I know you were at a party, right, at Mar-a-Lago. But
well, we were at Mar-a-Lago. We had people paying $10,000, $15,000, $25,000. They were scalping the tickets. We had the great, this guy is so talented. Let me tell you something. Vanilla Ice. He's a big MAGA guy. He sang that song for 90 minutes straight. He just sang it over and over. It's his only hit, sadly. But he just sang it over and over again. And I stood there. I took it, like a man, because the kids love Vanilla Ice. He's very popular. Would you characterize Vanilla Ice as very talented? I don't think a lot of people would characterize him like that, Mr. President. Why would you? Well, I heard he could flip a house and put 2 coats of paint on a place in half a day. So I think that's very, very talented. And the fact that he can sing is a bonus. Don't you think it's a bonus that he can sing? If he could. Yeah, I mean, listen, Kid Rock, I would say, and Ted Nugent, they're big fans of yours. And they're huge fans of mine. They're huge fans of mine.
They're-
Ken Nugent is amazing. He threatens Obama like every other day. It's so amazing.
Do you still think that Barack Obama wasn't born in this country, sir?
He wasn't born in this country. Joe Biden's not the president. The January 6th was an inside job. It's all these things. Whatever insane conspiracy theory there is, I like it. I like it.
If you're just joining us, it is an honor to have the 45th president of the United States.
It is.
It is an honor. Donald Trump joining us. So Donald Trump, Mr. Trump, I have to go down the list of those that are running against you, those that you might like.
Who?
Yeah,
Who's running against me?
Well, there's a few.
I mean, what are they? 4%? I mean, come on, 4%.
There's a few, Mr. President. Let me start with someone that is also not a very big fan of yours today. That is Chris Christie. What are your thoughts on Chris Christie?
Oh, God. Chris Christie. Give me a break. Listen, this guy's got more chins than a Chinese phone book. I mean, his A1C is WTF. I mean, the guy, his spleen is made out of brajol. I mean, come on. He's not a healthy guy. He's not going to make it.
Oh, that's not very nice, Mr. President. Why do you fat shame people? That's not very nice.
Because he is.
All right, fair enough.
I wouldn't do it if he wasn't. And listen, if you can't take care of your own health, right? If you can't take care of your own health, I mean, you can't. You have to have discipline, right? You haven't, right? Are you agreeing with me on this?
No, Mr. President.
The guy's got more. Listen. He hasn't seen his little Christie in 35 years. If you know what I'm saying.
Fair enough. I'm not going to argue.
Listen. I used to like Chris. I took a photo with him. Back last summer when we were still talking. It's still printing. Okay.
But, Mr. President, your diet is full of KFC and fast food, and I wouldn't say you're on the front of Fitness magazine as well. And I say that with all due respect, sir. I mean, what?
I'm very, very healthy. But Chris Christie's cholesterol needs a debt ceiling, if you know what I'm talking about. You know what his wife's pet name for him is during those intimate moments?
What?
Get off of me! I can't breathe.
Okay, well, I'll take your word for that one, Mr. President. But there are others like Nikki Haley. She's kind of had a tough week with her answer with why did the Civil War happen? What are your thoughts on Nikki Haley? Because it seems like you guys have a love-hate relationship.
Well, the thing with Nikki Haley is it's not even her name. It's like Punjab, something like that. But, Nikki's not her real name. I want to just make that very, very clear. Why would she, if she's so proud of her Indian heritage, why would she change her name? Why would she change her name? And she begged me for the job that I gave her at the UN. Begged me, if you know what I mean.
Wow.
It was very sad. It was very sad. She really, what she did to get that job, and she did a horrible job. She did a horrible job at the UN. I wonder who hired her. It's really sad.
It doesn't sound like you would pick her as your vice president. Is that a fair assessment?
I would not pick Nikki Haley as my vice president. Maybe Christie, Carrie Lake.
Yeah.
Maybe Carrie Lake. Maybe Ivanka. I think a Trump ticket would really, really kill. I don't think Nikki's cutting it. I mean, we all know why the Civil War happened. It was very simple. You know what I mean? And she couldn't give the correct answer.
That's true. Well, let me ask you, Mr. President, why did the Civil War happen? Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, because they wanted the good old boy flag as the flag of America, and we wanted the other one, and that's why. Because they're like, what do they call that one? The one with the General Lee and what was the name of that TV show with the great John? What's his name?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, Mr. President. Are you?
Yeah, it all came down to a flag.
Yeah.
It all came down to a flag. That's why we fought, and 200,000 people died over a flag. It's sad. Why don't we have both?
Well,
why don't we have both?
I remember when NASCAR banned the Confederate flag, you went after NASCAR. Do you support the Confederate flag, Mr. President?
Absolutely. They lost, and they deserve an opportunity to fly their flag. A lot of people who've lost have won, technically, and the South will rise again, and that's why I love the Southern people. And I've always been like that. Even as a New York billionaire, I love the South. Great people, fantastic people. Chicken fried steak. I mean, who thought of that? That was brilliant.
When you say good people, do you regret your Charlottesville comment when you said good people on both sides?
Absolutely. There are good people on both sides. Even though they're saying Jews will not replace us, maybe they meant something else. You never know. And those tiki torches, sales of tiki torches went through the roof. Through the roof.
Oh, all right, fair enough. Do you have any Confederate flags in your home? Do you personally? Do you have any of those?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. But I love love the South. I've done very well in the South. People like what's his name? He's not even from Florida. Ron DeSantis. He's not from Florida.
What do you make of that?
I live in Florida.
What do you make of Ron DeSantis? I didn't even ask you about him. Do you like Ron DeSantis, or are you? You don't? Tell me why.
I don't like him. I don't like Ron. He's stealing he's another person who begged me. You know what happened. He was tanking in the polls. He comes to me, comes to Marla, begs me for my endorsement. I said, Ron, I don't know. You're not doing that well. He begs me against my better judgment. I gave him my endorsement. 4 hours later, he was governor. They held an early election because of my endorsement, and he went on to become government. This has never happened before. 4 hours later, he was the governor. He was sworn in, and now he's stealing my act. He's running against me. And listen, I understand politics. No one understands politics the way I understand politics, but you don't stab the person in the back who gave you the endorsement. Have I ever done that? No. So I'm very saddened by that go-go boot wearing guy in his his big boots with the lifts in it, and what the hell is he doing? And by the way, Florida's falling apart. It is falling apart.
Sean Hannity just moved to Florida. What do you think? What do you make of that?
That's why it's falling apart. Sean Hannity just moved there.
Maybe that is why it's falling apart. You might be right about that. I have to ask you about Jeffrey Epstein. So the list came out yesterday, right, Mr. President?
And I wasn't on it.
You were not on the list. What is your reaction, though, to Bill Clinton, David Copperfield, Alan Dershowitz? What do you make of some of these names that were on the list?
Well, listen, Alan's a weirdo. I think we can all agree about that. He's such a weirdo. And as far as, what's his name, David Copperfield, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're probably more on top of this than I am, but he didn't do anything. He just didn't do anything once he found out they were doing something. Is that correct?
That you kind of described it correctly, Mr. President, but you are seen in pictures with this man, Jeffrey Epstein. What did you guys talk about? When you had private conversations with Jeffrey Epstein, what were those conversations like?
Well, I have said many, many times I liked him. He liked women even younger than I did. He was a smart guy, good guy. I wish Ghislaine Maxwell good luck. It's a terrible thing. But he and I had a falling out.
Yeah, well,
I
have to ask you this, Mr. President. You just characterized a child molester as a smart, good guy. You've said similar things about Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin. Why do you praise such evil people, Mr. President? Why do you do that?
Oh, well, here's the thing with Epstein. Have you noticed? No one's complained about his financial acumen. Did you notice that? No one's ever said, I lost money. It's not like it was a Ponzi scheme. The guy was good with money, I have to tell you. I just disagreed. There was one girl we both liked. He took her. It was very, very sad.
All right, so I guess by your standards, if somebody's good with money, forget about everything else. All right, well, you're entitled to your opinion. All
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Don't you feel that way? If my accountant was a mass murderer, I'd say that's fine, but just make the numbers work.
Yeah, I think we think a little differently when it comes to that, Mr. President, but that's okay. I mean, we're allowed to think differently. That's what makes America great, right, Mr. President?
And we are going to make America great again, because I'm coming back around. But I was technically the president this entire time, and I did a fantastic job. 13.5 million jobs. The economy's booming. I did all of that. You realize that, right?
Well, wait a second. So it sounds to me like you're praising your opponent, Joe Biden. Am I wrong?
Oh, no. He's not doing anything. They're feeding him like baby food.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, I'm actually running the country. I have complete control.
I thought we had a baby formula shortage and the Republicans voted against it. I could be wrong on that, Mr.
They
President.
absolutely did. And because those babies are just terrible people.
Interesting. All right, well, Mr.
A lot of them are Democrats. Because they just want everything free. Babies want everything free, and we can't be that way.
Well,
we can't give all the babies everything they need. That would be terrible.
So you don't think there are any babies that are Republicans? You think they're all liberal Democrats?
In the beginning, they're all socialists. They want everything for free. They want to be taken care of. They want their diapers changed. If that's not a democratic, socialist, left-wing radical, I don't know what is.
All right, fair enough, Mr. President. Last question for you, since you are on a live radio show in the great state of Nevada. This is a
How do you say? Some people say I say Nevada wrong. Am I saying it right?
No, Nevada.
I think I'm saying it right.
Yeah, Nevada.
Nevada.
Yeah,
exactly.
you're pronouncing it correctly, Mr. President. You got
Yeah,
that
because
right.
the radical left wing gave me a hard time, said I was saying it wrong. I said, what the hell am I saying wrong?
Well, don't listen to them. They're not always right either, Mr. President. I'm on your side there.
Thank you.
What would you like to say to the swing state voters in the great state of Nevada, because it could control the outcome of the 2024 election? What would you say to them right now?
Well, I just want you to know there's rioting in the streets, there's murder, there's mayhem, horrible crime, carjacking, a lot of bad stuff's going on. But on January 20th, 2025, all the insanity will stop when I'm sworn back in. So get me sworn back in, and maybe we can have the election this summer, and we can have a nice summer, and I can be president by the summertime.
Okay, no fake electorates, though, right, Mr. President? We don't want any fake
No,
electorates.
oh, by the way, I know they have a preference. You guys have a preference thing coming up? You have a preference election earlier in the year?
Correct. Yeah, we're doing something that that not a lot of Republicans in this state have ever done in the past. Some people would characterize it as rigging the election for Donald Trump. I don't know if you would characterize it that way.
No, I would say they're just helping me. I would just say they're helping me.
All right, fair enough. Well, Mr. President,
get me in. Vote early and often on that one.
Yeah,
Vote early and often.
Yeah, all right. Well, fair enough, Mr. President. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It is my understanding.
Always.
It is my understanding that you're at the home of a very, very talented impersonator, a comedian, a guy who travels the world, who also I think is very fond of you. I think he's made a lot of money off your voice.
A lot of money. It's just he's a hack. He's a hack.
Well, he might.
I'm here at his house.
Well, yeah.
I'm here at his palatial mansion. He's made a lot of money off me, but I like to visit him because he's like another me. He's like a clone. He's out there representing me.
Well, Mr. President, I do appreciate you coming on. If you could pass the phone to the very talented impersonator, Jon DiDomenico, that would be great. Can you do that?
Why do you want to talk to him?
Well, I don't know. I just want to pick his brain a little bit. Is that okay, Mr. President?
All right, here he is.
John, thank you, Mr. President. Jon DiDomenico, everybody, joining us. John, you are the
Tell
best.
everyone to sit.
You have duped everybody once again. You are
the lights were going off like crazy.
You are the best. And I watched you on television do a little bit of Austin Powers, and my producer just said, can you get him to do 5 seconds of Austin Powers? Is there any way?
Yeah, baby. Smushy, groovy, right on. We're in swinging Las Vegas, baby.
I absolutely love it. So, John, for people that don't know, on your YouTube page, you do these Donald Trump press conferences on Fridays that are hilarious, and I was nice enough, or you were nice enough, I should say, to invite me to your home and saw one.
You were great, man.
Oh, I appreciate that.
That was so much fun.
You are so good at that. So how can people find you? I know you have a huge social media platform, but how do they find these press conferences and learn a little bit more about you?
Go to YouTube, put in the Johnny D Show #1 or my name, Jon DiDomenico. It'll come up. We do these every Friday. It's a full hour. You can chime in, ask any question you want. We have people asking from Germany and England and the Sudan, and we have a huge following. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a press conference party. And we always have new reporters. You were there one week with someone else, so we keep it fresh and lively, and all the questions are different every single week. So tune in there. I'm also on TikTok, The Johnny D Show. We have 6 million followers on TikTok, 103,000 on YouTube. Join us, subscribe, follow, do all that stuff that people do on social media to help me out, because that's what I do, and that's how I make a living, is social media.
John, there's a reason why you're so popular and you have so many followers, because you're one of the most talented guys I know in this town. There's no
thank you.
And
man.
you are the best spot-on Donald Trump impersonator. There's hands down, and you're the best. John, thanks so much for taking the time. You are the best, my friend, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks, Brian. Talk to you soon. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Bye-bye.
That is the very talented and very funny Jon DiDomenico, as the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. By the way, he makes a lot of appearances on the Howard Stern show as well, but he's nice enough to join us here. All right, so we had a little bit of fun with, listen, every day I cover a lot of serious topics, a lot of serious stories, and Jon Ralston first segment was a very serious topic about the fake electorate scheme And, but we have some fun on this show. Now I am going to open the phone lines. First of all, I would like to know, did anybody actually believe, because I know there's a lot of people on social media that thought that this was really Donald Trump. If you did believe it or didn't believe it, whatever the case, I'll open up the phone lines now and I'll let you guys call in. We got a few minutes here. I'll take some calls. 702-221-7283. And again, the number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-SAVE. I have to be honest with you. Some of Donald Trump's answers there were the types of answers that the real Donald Trump would give. That's what makes it even more funny and ridiculous at the same time. In the first segment, by the way, we also spoke to Jon Ralston from the Nevada Independent. This is a serious topic, and it's a topic of the Nevada GOP chair. His name is Mike McDonald. Mike McDonald is the current Nevada GOP chair. He claimed that the 2020 election was rigged against Donald Trump, and now, in real time, he is literally trying to rig the election for Donald Trump. Folks, you cannot make this stuff up. This is really bad. It has to be talked about and called out. And by the way, the current Nevada GOP chair has been indicted and just pled not guilty to this fake electorate scheme. All right, number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. 702-221-7283. And again, that number, 702-221-SAVE. If you would like to be a part of the program. Let's go to the phone lines. Take your calls. Let's start off with John. John, are you there? John, you got to lower your...
I had a question. How is McDonald rigging the election for Trump?
So you didn't hear anything that Jon Ralston said in the first segment?
Yeah, but how's he doing? McDonald rigging the election?
Jon Ralston answered that question, and they're doing something that they haven't done in decades. Did you not hear anything that Jon Ralston said?
You mean having a caucus?
Did you not hear anything that Jon Ralston said?
Yeah, I did, but I'm not sure. That's why I was asking you.
Okay. And I'm asking you.
Caucuses.
And I'm asking you, aren't you the same guy who called into this show last week that said this show sucks, but yet you listen every day and you call in? What does that say about you?
Has been around
No. Why don't you answer my question?
Has been around since 1981.
Pot him down. You're the guy who called into this show last week, who, by the way, listens to this show every day and calls in, the huge MAGA supporter that you are, and you called into this show last week and you said, Brian, your show stinks or sucks or something like that. What does that say about you, MAGA, that you listen to this show every day and you call in? What does that say about you, John or JD or whatever your name is? Yeah, exactly. You hung up the phone because you're a coward. That's the guy who calls into the show and he literally said, oh, well, this show sucks. And then he listens and he calls in every day. Yeah, because you love me. And that wasn't John, by the way. That was a guy by the name of JD. I know his voice, and he is a coward and a fool. 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call, 702-221-7283. Leave it to somebody that is someone who wears the Donald Trump knee pads, who couldn't take the humor of this segment and had to get all angry and say, explain to me how McDonald is rigging the election. You dope. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mohammed. Mohammed is next. Hi, Mohammed.
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Mohammed. How are you?
Good, thank you. I believe I was won over by Donald Trump. I'm voting for him now.
Well, that was the whole point of it. I just wanted to win people over with Donald Trump's charm. So I'm glad it worked for you, Mohammed. I'm glad.
The votes are going to go through the roof after this interview, Brian.
I think it's going to go viral, Mohammed. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I hope so. We love Donald Trump now. You too. I can tell.
Yeah,
You're very fond of him. I can tell.
I'm a big MAGA supporter now. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump actually took some time to join me on the show, it really does mean the world to me. But I guess there are some MAGA supporters that are angry.
I also hope the last caller runs for office. I'll vote for him, too.
Yeah, so would I. So would I. Yeah, sounds a really smart guy who calls into this show. Oh, my goodness. Mohammed, I don't know what to do with these people.
I think you got it wrong, though, Brian.
How's that?
I don't think he wears Donald Trump knee pads. I think he wears Brian Shapiro knee pads because he calls you all the time.
You might be right about that. You might be onto something, Mohammed. I don't know. It's interesting. These MAGAs that call in, they like to be punished, right? They like to be punished. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something to say for that. I don't know.
You might be right. Okay, I have to get back to selling Slurpees. You have a great day.
Take care. Wow. 702-221-7283. And the number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Yes, life is short, ladies and gentlemen. We try to have fun. We try to have a good time. We also talk about a lot of serious topics on this show. And, listen, presidential impersonators is nothing new. But I will tell you this, Donald Trump makes up the clownery himself. He makes it up himself. We now currently have a guy who is the front runner in the face of the Republican Party that is facing 91 felony counts. A guy who was proven in a courtroom to be civilly liable for raping a woman. And all these people are saying now on social media and all these people on the far right, oh, Donald Trump was exonerated. Donald Trump was exonerated? From what? He wasn't exonerated any more than Bill Clinton was. Really. So we know who Donald Trump is. We know who he is. We know his behavior. We know he only cares about himself. And I had people calling yesterday that said, oh, well, Donald Trump did so-and-so for Jennifer Hudson. Donald Trump has done some wonderful good things in his life. So what? That doesn't take away from all the bad things he's done and all the bad things he said. That doesn't take away for his attacks on our democracy and what took place on January 6th. That doesn't take away for his attacks on women and Gold Star families and POWs. Doesn't take away from any of that stuff. 702-221-7283. And again, the number to call, 702-221-7283. Let's go to, this is going to be an interesting call, I have a feeling. Let's go to Julie. Julie is next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Julie.
How you doing today? How your blood pressure today, Brian?
Well, it's about to go up, but that's okay. Go ahead, Julie.
Okay. You were talking about making, he talks like this and like that. But let me tell you, Biden cannot even complete a sentence.
That's not true. So we can move on.
No.
I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to get into a conversation with you about how you think Joe Biden can't put together a sentence. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to do that. So if you have anything of substance that you'd like to say, then I'm happy to have a conversation with you. But if you're one of those people that just wants to call in and say Joe Biden can't put a sentence together, I'm not interested in having that conversation with you.
Oh.
Actually, I think you're the one right now struggling to put a sentence together, actually. Julie, are you calling from your bunker?
Oh.
Julie, are you calling from the
bunker?
Julie, are you calling from the bunker?
No, the only bunker, Zuckerberg is building a bunker in Hawaii. That's the only person who is building a bunker.
Okay, no, but I just hear from a lot of MAGA. I hear from a lot of MAGA supporters like yourself that Joe Biden is in the bunker.
I don't know. Maybe his basement at the White House. I don't know. Maybe he's in Delaware enjoying his mansion.
Yeah.
While many people are struggling in America.
Julie, can I ask you a question? Would you date Donald Trump?
Absolutely.
Do you find him attractive? Would you date Donald Trump?
No, because I don't vote based on personality. That's the problem.
You don't date based
That's
on
the point.
You don't date
personality, no.
You don't date
I don't
based
vote
on
based I don't vote based
I didn't ask you hey, Julie, pay attention. I didn't ask you vote. I said would you date? Do you find Donald Trump
No, because I don't like Trump's personality.
Oh, because you don't like his personality. Okay, I understand. So why did
No.
Got you. So
I don't like Trump, the personality. I hate.
Okay. Well, I think I'm sorry, Julie. I think we lost you on your Obama phone, but I'm glad to hear that at least I got you to admit something about Donald Trump that isn't a positive. I'm glad you don't like his personality. Guess what? I don't like his personality either. So, Julie, we do have something in common when we found some common ground, which is incredible. I appreciate you calling in. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. I liked his personality on my show today, though, I'll be honest. All right, let's go to Ron. Ron is next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Ron.
Hey, first-time caller. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Well, I love Jimmy Kimmel, and I hate what my ex-favorite football quarterback had to say about him.
Aaron Rodgers, yep.
But I really like the dude because he went to school close to where I live, and I couldn't believe what he said, and I didn't even realize he was a Republican, but I guess he must be.
He's got a big. He
anyway,
wears a big tinfoil hat. Aaron Rodgers does. I'll tell you that, my man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I haven't followed him anywhere except on the on the field. So anyway, moving on. I've been listening to the Politics Girl a lot, and I only have a Facebook page that I use for my politics. But Project 2025 scares the shit out of me, and I think that really needs to. If everybody knew what that was and followed that, if they're still not got their heads in the sand or drinking the Kool-Aid, that's the winner.
Well,
because it's such a loser.
All I can tell you is that if we're talking about the political spectrum over the course of the next year, it's going to be Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, and this country is going to have a decision to make. And
Joe Biden was my last choice in the primaries, and boy, was I a fool, because that guy, to me, has been the best president since FDR, and he'd had both a House and a Senate on his side. He would be still doing fantastically great things, and he would outstrip FDR by leaps and bounds.
Well, when you look at where the economy's at, when you look at the gas prices that have plunged, when you look at some of the bipartisan bills that he's passed, I think he's done an above-average job. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's the greatest president of all time, but I will say this. I'm not even going to blink twice. If it's Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, Joe Biden's got my vote. Heck, I'd vote for Chris Christie over Donald Trump. I'd vote for Liz Cheney over Donald Trump. There's a lot of people that I would vote. In fact, you couldn't name me many people that I could ever vote for that I couldn't vote for if they're Donald Trump, to me, is a threat to our democracy. He's a threat to the country.
Kidding.
He's a threat to the world. He's a despicable human being, and he belongs in jail. So that's my take.
Vladimir Putin's favorite fan.
You're right. You're right about that. And now I'm glad you brought that up, because now we just learned that I guess Donald Trump accepted over $7 million in foreign entity payments during his presidency. That's a new story that just came out.
And that Jamie Raskin, that's only 2 years he's looking at.
Right.
Probably a hell of a lot more than that.
You're right, my friend. We agree. Hey, I appreciate you calling into the show. Call back anytime, okay, my friend?
Okay, I'll be following you. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Appreciate you, sir. 702-221-7283. Take a couple more quick calls, then I do have a guest waiting. Let's go to Brandon. Brandon is next on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Brandon. What's going on?
Hey, buddy. It's good to hear from you again.
Thanks, man.
And I have to honestly say, the phone calls that come in, boy, shock the hell out of me.
They don't. I've been doing this for a long time. They never shock me, but it is what it is. What you got for me, my friend?
Well, what's really, really astounding, though? I mean, I had to laugh a few minutes ago when people ask you, like, who you going to vote for or who you not going to vote for. You know what's so funny? When you look at politics, voting is just like, forgive me for saying, but it's like going to your favorite food joint. It's like picking like your favorite fast food place. Do you like Wendy's? Do you like McDonald's? Do you like Burger King? I mean, it's the same thing with politics if you really look at it, though. But what person can do this?
Well,
for the country?
I think
What
if you
person
want
can do
to,
that?
I think if you want to vote for the restaurant or the guy that has rats in the kitchen that you'll get food poisoning from, then definitely vote for Donald Trump. That would be his restaurant, quite frankly. And he'll, if you want to vote for cleanliness and you want to vote for honesty and integrity, then you vote for anybody else but Donald Trump.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And do you remember that time when Donald Trump tried to have all those football players come to the White House
and he served them
and
McDonald's?
Boy, that buffet table. I mean, just for that, man, I could just go like around the corner for that shit.
Well, because he's an idiot. Because he's an idiot, and that's why I love the fact that so many of these professional athletes refused to go to the White House when Donald Trump was president. And I also remember when he was throwing out paper towels. He thought he was, I thought he was Tom Brady, throwing paper towels out when people are losing their lives and losing their homes.
In Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah,
You do remember that.
Of course I do.
I know that can't forget your mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is who Donald Trump is. He's a scumbag, and
I'm like, this is the person we voted for.
Yeah, well, not the person. He ain't the person I voted for. I'll tell you that. That is for sure. But hey, I appreciate you calling in, Brandon. Thank you so much, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man.
All right.
I'll be calling in again.
Thank you. Anytime, sir. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, that number is 702-221-7283. Listen, I appreciate all the calls. Obviously, we had a little bit of fun with John DiDomenico, who is a spot-on Donald Trump impersonator. There's no question about that. We had some fun there. We also talked about listen, that's what I try to do on this show. I try to lighten the mood a little bit. We talk about a lot of serious topics and a lot of serious issues on this show. And we also try to have a little fun in the process because life is short in the end, right? Life is short. Okay, so we have Julie wants to call back. No, I'm not going to take her call. No, we're not doing double calls, Julie. You can call back tomorrow. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. You had your opportunity. Get rid of your Obama phone and get another phone, and then you can call back another time, all right? You're welcome to call back tomorrow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for following me and watching the show. I want to thank John DiDomenico for joining us. We had a great time with him, the best Donald Trump impersonator in the world, great guy. And, of course, Jon Ralston from The Independent for joining us in the first segment as well, talking about what is a very serious topic, and that is the Nevada GOP chair that literally is doing everything he can to rig the election for Donald Trump, unless you're somebody named John who calls in, whose real name is JD, who calls into the show, who wears tinfoil on his head and can't get enough of me. This radio show grows on him like fungus. He just can't get rid of me. But anyway, other than that, if that didn't gross you out enough, follow me on my socials, please. YouTube, @PTL Radio Show. Twitter, or X, @PTL Radio Show. You can also follow me on TikTok, on our Facebook fan page. And I also appreciate all of the listeners on the Occupy Democrats Network. Grant Stern and all the people there at Occupy do a phenomenal job, and I certainly am honored and I'm happy to be a part of their platform as well and have all the listeners coming in and joining me on this show. I hope everybody had a good time. If you want to watch the rest of the show live, go on my YouTube page, @PTL Radio Show, besides the FMAM dial, because coming up next, we're going to have a treat for you. He played in the NBA for 12 years. He coached professionally for 2 decades. The big 7-footer Paul McKeskey is going to join us in studio. I want to get his take on this Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Kimmel thing. I want to get his thoughts on that, and then plenty of sports to get to with him. Thank you all for joining us. Again, if you want to watch the rest of the show live, go to my YouTube page, @PTL Radio Show, and subscribe. Take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.